Assuming you've already watched my introductions to the four elements video, aka the personality types, I'm going to jump right into frequently asked questions from each sign. These are questions that each sign will ask before they attend a course, seminar, or go to some kind of retreat weekend. Feel free to use this in your own content. Starting from top to bottom, densest to lightest, slowest moving to fastest moving, we're going to move through. We'll be going through the earth, water, air, and fire type. We'll be beginning with earth. We'll be starting with the earth type, moving on to the water type, moving on to the air type, and last to the fire type. The earth types, also known as the sage, we can call them the earth sage, if that feels good to you, values information, altruism, knowledge, and data. They want to know if the teacher knows what they're actually talking about, or if they're just regurgitating something that they heard from YouTube. They want to know what they're going to learn, and if it's something they don't already know. And they want to know, is this science-based, or is there logic or proof in this, or is this all just woo-woo? Now the water types. Moving on to the water types. The water types, also known as the chief. The water types, which is the water types archetype being the chief, we can call them the water chief. They value cooperation, order, efficiency, and resource management. They like things to run like a Swiss watch. They want to know, is this simple? Is this program simple? They want to know, is this program simple? They want to know, does this make sense? And they want to know, what are the actual steps? From there, they can make their assessment as to whether they want to engage in it or not. Moving on to the air types. Now the air types, also known, the air types, archetype being the healer or the shaman. We can call them the air healer or the wind shaman if that feels good to you. They want to know how will this improve their relationships? How can they use this to help others? How will this help them heal themselves? And how can this be used to improve their emotional intelligence? In other words, how can they use this to improve their emotional intelligence and inner peace? Now the fire types, also known as the hunter. Now moving on to fire types. The archetype for this one being the hunter or warrior. Let's call them the fire hunters. They are very bottom line. They want to know what is the quick and they're very bottom line. So they want to know what is the investment and what is the investment they get to make and what will be the return on the investment. They want to know what is the investment they will get to make and what is the return on the investment. In other words, if they put in all this time and money into it, so they want to know if they put in time and money into it, what will they get out of it? Will it increase their performance? Will it increase their abilities? Will it help them break through something that has been holding them back? And what if they fall in love with this process? How can they be a part of it and push this out to the world? And possibly share this with the world or become a representative or a salesperson. And they want to know if they do fall in love with this program or process. And they want to know if they do fall in love with this program or process, how can they help enroll others in it? How can they push it out to the world, blaze a new trail, share it with everybody? So let's go back and answer these. Let's go back and answer each question one by one. Does the trainer know what they're talking about? In my case, I do. And if I don't, I will refer that person to the person who does know, or I will send them a YouTube link or a book or something. If I learned it from another source, I will always quote the source. I don't need to steal content. I have more content than I need in my brain, my body, and my heart, and my soul. If I don't know for sure, I will say this is my theory, or I will just flat out say, I don't know. I would look here, or I would do research in this department or this area. What are they going to learn that they don't already know? In my case, now applying all of these questions to just my curriculum and specifically the Soul Root Alchemy. Now applying all of these questions to just my curriculum or the Soul Root Alchemy course and or the Soul Root Alchemy course. So they want to know, does Zoe know what he's talking about? Either I do, I don't, it's a theory, or I will give somebody an opinion based on something that I learned from another teacher, book, or course. And I will refer them to that so they can go do the research, so I don't have to sit here and explain it to them for the next 4 hours. If they really want to sit down and go through the nitty-gritty, that's what setting up appointments is for. So next, what are they going to learn that they don't already know? What are they going to learn that they don't already know? People are infinite inside of them. There are things that we haven't discovered about ourselves, and things that we've discovered about ourselves that we haven't peeled back all the layers on. Externally, there's an infinite amount of information that's out there right now, and that information is evolving and growing on its own like a biological organism. Sometimes I will remind someone of something they already know and frame it in a way that they haven't heard before. That tends to be the way that I do things. I seem to have a knack for that. And is this science-based or all just woo-woo? I like to bring science, logic into it, physics into it, biology into it, any chance that I can. And if I can find empirical data or clinical data to back it up, I will, and I will provide it. I do also enjoy the woo-woo. I know that a lot of things that were theory 100 years ago became truth over time. And so there's some things that we don't have proof for that is true right now, that is still in theory, that over time we will learn is true and provable. So that was the earth types. So FAQs by type. Here are the earth type questions that I just went through. Here are the water type questions. Is this simple? In the case of Soul Root Alchemy, it is like tying your shoes. It is that simple. The example I like to give people is tying your shoes is easy, swallowing an aspirin is easy, blowing your nose is easy. But the second you have to teach those to, say, a 5-year-old, those things get complicated pretty quick. So I do my best to keep things simple without leaving out crucial data. But what's cool about Soul Root Alchemy is that even if you don't know why it works, it still works. Even if you don't believe it works, it still works, as long as you just follow the steps and answer the questions honestly. Does it make sense? It makes more sense when you actually do the process, but I can also explain why it makes sense on a mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical level. And what are the steps? The steps of the process, or the 5 stages of breakthrough, are event, emotion, turning point, emotion, event. Or more specifically, an event happens. If we don't have negative emotions about it, it's not a problem. If we do, those are the emotions. In either case, you have emotions. It's only a problem when you have negative emotions about the event, at which point you want to arrive at a turning point sooner or later. Once you hit the turning point, it's followed by positive emotions. Those positive emotions either change our outlook on the event, or we manifest, or we attract or create a new event. Those are the 5 stages of breakthrough. Soul Root Alchemy follows those 5 stages through a writing tool, which can be memorized into a mental and emotional philosophy and apply it as a reflex, and then can be practiced through a meditation, mantras, and a series of emotion hacks. Air types. How can this improve their relation? Moving on to air types. How can this improve their relationships? How can this be used to help others? And how can this be used to improve their emotional intelligence and inner peace? The air types are naturally emotional people. They tend to be nurturers. So anytime that they act out of anger, they feel it hard. They tend to be punished worse than the person that they acted upon. Not in every case, but a lot of the times. So speaking to their heart right now, it's like, you know who you are, you know who you are not. You know you are not your ego. You know you are your soul and your heart. You know you're a good person. You know you're a loving person. Do you want to make decisions that hurt your feelings and the feelings of others? Once you have made the decision that that's not the way you want to do things, that is the beginning of creating healthy relationships. Even if other people aren't nice, it doesn't mean, here's where a nurturer gets caught up, is where if somebody is not nice to them, it doesn't make sense to them. Like, why would somebody just not be nice? It doesn't logically register in their head, and it doesn't feel good in their heart or their body or their soul. So what makes an air sign feel good is being the good person, regardless of what's going on around them or who is acting in which way or how badly they're treating them. It doesn't mean an air sign doesn't get to have boundaries, but a boundary is another form of love. So these are the ones that are going to be more concerned with the emotional aspect and the relational aspect of all the signs. They know that operating from an emotionally intelligent or a more compassionate, patient, understanding, peaceful state works better for them, and it not only feels good, but it works better for them. How can this be used to help others? When you see somebody in crisis, you can sit down and walk them through this. You don't have to tell them that they're in a process. You don't have to tell them what stage they're in. You don't have to send them to my website and be like, hey, are you in crisis? You should sign up. The last thing they want to know is that they're being processed or to sign up for something. What they really need right now is they need you to be there for them. And so how this can help you and help while helping others is by you being able to keep in mind that they're in a certain stage of the process. It kind of protects you from getting roped into their whirlwind. It also gives you something to walk them through. And you can ask them the questions like, what happened? How are you feeling about it? Which you would be blown away by how many people are shocked by that question. Most people say, oh, what happened? And then they get online and then they start like gassing them up. You're like, oh, is that what they did? We're about to go over there. We're about to roll up on them. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, and it's not healthy, effective, or productive. Now what a wind shaman, a wind healer will do is they'll affirm, and they will nurture and validate them through this process. This is what happened. I'm sorry that happened. How do you feel about it? Oh, that's too bad. Do you need to be in that space for a while, or would you like some advice or some guidance to kind of come out of this right now? It's very soft, but it's still structured. It still follows this structure. So it kind of hits all the boxes. You know, it's got the fire sign where it's like, let's move through this. You can do this. It has the air sign of where you're holding space for them in a kind and loving way. It has the order, and it's operating all in the background. This whole system, if you were to see how it was linked to like 30 different philosophies, you're exercising the knowledge of thousands of years within a few steps, within a few minutes with somebody. And then they can learn it if they're pulled out of that spell or whirlwind or whatever you want to call it, that state of crisis and dysfunction and dysregulation that they were in. They'll say, wait, how did you do that? You can say, well, this is a process that I learned, and this is something now they can do at home. And now you can send them to my website if you want. So this can actually help you help others without getting roped in, because a lot of people that want to give and heal, they oftentimes get pulled in. They start drowning because that person's drowning. How can this be used to improve their emotional intelligence and inner peace? Great questions. Emotional intelligence. People that are emotionally intelligent tend to be more successful, make more money because they make less self-destructive decisions. So again, what it does is it takes you out of the dysregulated ego space where you want to hurt yourself or someone else, which cause and effect, affects our relationships. Whenever somebody blows up at you or freaks out, it tends to affect the relationship. Trust is very hard, takes a lot of time to build, and takes one day to ruin. So the short explanation is, if you have trust, and you're maintaining that trust, which also tend to bring honor and respect. When you have trust, honor, and respect for someone, and you're not having a good day or they're not having a good day, this helps you kind of move through that, navigate through that without anybody getting hurt. And inner peace, the inner peace part is knowing that if I use alchemy, I can turn lead into gold. That means if something comes down the pipeline in the future, I have a way of dealing with it. That gives me a certain sense of inner peace right now, knowing that I can revert back to a process that I know that works. Okay, so the fire types, last but not least, they want to know, so what is the investment? What is the investment? What am I going to get out of this? They'll say, well, what's the investment? What am I going to get out of this? I have stated quite a few things, but I will address that directly. Hopefully by now you've already heard what you'll get out of it, but I will also address that directly. What will I get out of it? In other words, how will this increase my performance, my abilities, or help me break through something that's holding me back? Just share it. Okay, how will this increase my performance? So let's go about, what is the investment? I have a 3-day program that's $33. And it's self-guided. If you want to take yourself through it in a single day, you can power through it. If we can binge watch an entire season of Ozark, we can get through a self-development course in a day. We can get a 3-day course done in a single day. If you want to take your time with it, take your time with it. But if you want to power through it, I would suggest just sit down, take a day off, take one of your days off and power through this. And you won't just be sitting there watching videos. I'll actually give you exercises and things that you can engage in, and you'll be able to take yourself through this. So what is your ROI? What is your return on investment? Fear is everything you want is on the other side of fear. So you step into courage and commitment and consistency, courage, commitment, consistency, all the things that are, valued by the soul. That is how you pass through those things. Sitting in front of your fear or being resentful of your fear, or being resentful of yourself, or being resentful of the world does not solve any of your problems. So it's like you're taking a sword and you're just cutting through these walls that sometimes are there and sometimes you don't. And until you sit down and process them, you can't really work through them. How will this increase my performance breakthrough? I think I just addressed that. And then if I fall in love, how can I push this out to the world? Just share it. Just share it with your friend, or pay this forward, for their birthday present. Say, hey, I went through this really cool thing and they're running a special on it. It's usually $100. I'm doing it for 33 because I want 1,000 people to go through this course over the next year. And I feel like the best way to do it is to just do some free presentations, offer it for a really low price, and then we're off to the races, right? And then I'll be doing, so here's the cool thing, moving forward. So there's a few things to remember. With all that being said, we are all four. And it just depends on the time, date, situation. Sometimes I'm Mr. Fire sign at work and I come home and I'm Mr. Air sign with my daughter. I'm not bottom line cut and dry with my daughter, right? I'm very nurturing and soft and gentle with her. And when I'm in a business meeting, I'm very much like water. Like, what are the steps? I need clarity. And when I'm learning something, I'm very much the earth person. I want to pick it apart, make sure this person's legit, make sure this is true, it's proved. I want to test it. I want to go into the lab. So yeah, that also leads me to my next point. We don't have to be stuck in one. If we say, well, I'm a fire sign, so I have to be bottom line, there's going to be times you don't want to be. Or I'm an air sign, I can't go out and sell. I can't go out and just smash things with a hammer. Sometimes you're going to want to. Or you can say, I'm a water sign. I like things in order. Sometimes great things come out of chaos. Sometimes creativity or the next love of your life comes from the fact that you did something spontaneous. An earth sign may say, well, I love, tinkering and being in my lab. I don't like people. Sometimes going out and being social and talking to people and being open to not being right is going to serve you really well. You'll learn more, actually. If you're all about data and knowledge, you'll learn more. So none of them are an excuse to be a certain way. All of them have their challenges and all of them have their opportunities, their strengths, and each can teach us something. And we can, not only that, when it comes to communication, oftentimes conflict means we are in conflict because that person doesn't think the same as us. So instead of being like, oh man, this guy is wrong or stupid or he doesn't like me or he's trolling me, revert to the idea, get curious about who they are, ask them questions and maybe try to figure out what their values are and their tenets, try to figure out what they value. And then you can start to kind of build a personality profile and you can change your language. I'm not saying change your personality, but shift your focus on the things that they may be interested in. With fire signs, you want to be able to cut things dry. With air signs, you want to be able to speak to their heart. With water signs, you want to be able to put things into concise, organized order, be on time when you have a meeting with them. And with the earth signs, be ready to explain things and be ready to be challenged. If you give them an answer and they ask you 4 more questions, it's like chances are they're an earth sign. They're not trolling you. They want to know, and they sometimes don't realize that they're making people uncomfortable with how many questions they are asking and sometimes how intrusive those questions may seem. So instead of getting angry or creating a conflict or getting in a fight, just get curious and ask questions. And then you can start to kind of unravel people, and that creates peace, really. It creates peace, it creates order, it gets things done, and you learn more. So everybody's happy. With that being said, what else am I missing? How long is this recording, actually? Let's figure that out. It's 24 minutes. I hope that answers all of your questions. Earth signs, I'm sure you have 14 more questions. So again, this isn't just about my course. This is really the questions those either personality types, if that's your primary, or those parts of us want to know. And if you're a balanced person, those are most likely, and if you're a very balanced person, those are and if you're a very balanced person, those are most likely the top 12 questions you'll have before you go into any course or enroll with a coach or anything like that. Oh yeah. So usually the fire types and the earth types tend to just take this information and go off on their own. The fire types go, got it, and they'll go apply it. The earth types will say, got it, and they'll go tear it apart and go do research before they engage. The water types, they'll need some guidance, but for the most part, they can walk themselves through it because it's all step by step. The air types, they're the ones who really, they want to learn more, not based on information, but based on connection. They're the ones who tend to need a coach or guidance because they don't want to like break anything or do anything wrong. And these are actually the type of people that I would like. And people that have this as their top, as either their first or their second, are usually the people that I'll end up inviting to become certified to go teach this as well somewhere. So I do have a certification course. You can ask me about that. You could have your HR person, certified in this if you would like. And I'll be happy to train them. Reverting back to what I was saying before, just because we're a certain sign doesn't mean we have to be a certain way. There's a joke that Wayne Dyer used to say. He'd say, well, I can't do something because my wife won't let me, or I can't do something because my spouse won't let me, or my parents won't let me, or I'm Italian, that's just how we are. That's funny, but it's also largely untrue. What we think is what we create. Everything that we defend is whatever we fight for, we get to keep. So if you believe you're limited in a certain way, and somebody says, well, maybe you're not limited, and you fight them on it, it's like you get to keep that limit. But if you know you have a limit and you know you can break through it, you just want to work through it, fight for your breakthrough, not for your limitations. That would be my last piece of advice today. Fight for whatever life that you do want, not defending, die fighting for the life you want. Don't die defending the life you don't want.